SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
No one should have to decide if they can afford life-saving care. Expanding Medicaid would bring billions in federal funding back to our state. It helps stabilize rural hospitals providing critical care. Text BETTER to 46839.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man.
What's up? Across the Magnolia State, good morning. Welcome to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. We are glad to have you along this morning with Lance in studio. I'm your host, Richard Cross. Appreciate you joining us this morning. It is Thursday. That means the weekend is just around the corner. And if you think big sporting events signal the start of the weekend, then maybe the weekend starts today with some NCAA tournament games tonight, 4 Sweet 16 games tonight, 4 more tomorrow. College baseball weekend begins this evening as well. You got Ole Miss in action at home, hosting the Florida Gators tonight at 7 o'clock. Mississippi State headed down to Baton Rouge to take on LSU. It's going to be a nice day for really whatever you want to do, whether you are going to sneak out. Maybe you're on your way to a spot in the woods to chase turkeys this morning. I guess if you're going turkey hunting, you're probably already there. And so we'll catch you in the 7 or the 8 o'clock hour. Find out fishing hole today. Maybe you're just going to get outside for a little lunch break and enjoy some sunshine and some warm weather. Senatobia, you're coming in at 82 degrees this afternoon. It'll be partly cloudy. How about Durant, or Durant if you prefer? You're going to get up to 84 today and partly cloudy. Sebastopol, you're coming in at 83. Southern Mississippi and Picayune going to be 84, mostly cloudy. It's one of those days, Lance, where from the Mississippi Gulf Coast to DeSoto County, from Iuka to Woodville, everybody has the exact same weather today.
That's hard to believe, isn't it?
Low 80s, little overcast, a little bit of sunshine peeking through, and pollen for everybody.
Oh, yeah. Pollen stew.
Mm-hmm.
You at this time of year, you just use it like pepper or salt. It's just, it's there.
It is everywhere. And then it just kind of magically goes away and like...
I think we breathed it all in. That's what happened.
Maybe.
It didn't go away.
What is our pollen run? Is it 2 solid weeks? Is it 3 solid weeks?
Yeah, it depends on the weather, as Nelly would say.
Yeah,
it depends on the climate, and if you got a lot of wind and dry conditions and those things, it may blow through a little quicker. But with the rain and the dampness and things like that, hold on a little bit longer when it rains.
Yeah,
get a little sticky.
Got some rain in the forecast coming up this weekend. I believe I read on the old weather.com that there's a chance of some severe storms moving through the southeastern part of the United States over the weekend, so we'll certainly be aware of that. I'll throw a question out there. Shaq Bully says this. Shaq Bully in Biloxi says, turkey hunting early gets the worm.
They're smart, yeah.
But does it get the tom? So, there are turkey hunters that swear by being in the woods at, well before sunrise. But then there are also some turkey hunters that say, you really can have just as much success in the afternoon. So which is it? Have you got to go in the morning, or is an afternoon turkey hunt just as good?
I think the morning or afternoon is fine as long as you get there and get settled, be still. I mean, turkeys are pretty smart, so they know you're there. You got to settle in and you almost take a nap, and then when you wake up, there's one 30 yards from you. Messing with one of your decoys. That's the sweet spot.
That's the way to do it.
That's the way to do it. Yeah.
This day in 1963, Quentin Tarantino was born. 1963, American director, screenwriter, actor. Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill 1 and 2, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Did you know that Quentin Tarantino was born in Knoxville, Tennessee?
He doesn't look like a Knoxville kind of guy, but
he really doesn't, does he?
He just doesn't have that look, you know.
Not the East Tennessee look for Quentin Tarantino.
I've never seen him in orange either, so that kind of go against.
Maybe he's got that going for him.
Yeah, good for him, right?
That's a plus, yeah. In 1969, Mariah Carey was born, the American pop singer and songwriter. Without You, All I Want for Christmas Is You, Hero, We Belong Together. She was born in Huntington, Long Island, New York. You know, the most interesting thing I think about Mariah Carey is the cult classic that All I Want for Christmas Is You has become, and what she earns off of that.
Oh, man.
So that song, it was released in 1994. And you've heard music people or TV people talk before about mailbox money. That's when, you know, they write the song, and every time it plays, they get a little jingle in the pocket. And once a month or once a quarter, they get a check in the mail for the royalties for the use of their song. Since 1994, Mariah Carey's lifetime earnings for writing and singing All I Want for Christmas Is You have exceeded $60 million. Lance, how would you like something that you did 30 years ago to still generate $2.5 to $3 million a year for you?
Well, that would be like me, you know, pitching in college or something. You know, I didn't play pro ball, so yeah, I'd be getting NIL money still to the day.
Yeah.
You know, for throwing a good game, you know, 30 years ago.
Exactly.
That doesn't even blows my mind.
You were so good 30 years ago that we're going to continue to pay you today. Yeah. And the crazy thing is that's a song that has gotten more popular in the last, 15, 20 years than it was when it first came out.
I 100% agree, because I've really tuned into it a lot more over the last few years. And I don't really remember it that long ago, 99, 2000. That seems like a long time ago. But that song has no recall to me other than within the last few years. I don't know if it's just more played, or what. But yeah, it's mainstream now.
It certainly is played a lot. Another song that has been played a lot through the years comes from another lady that's having a birthday today. That is Fergie, the American pop singer with the Black Eyed Peas. She was born in Hacienda Heights, California. I think it's pretty clear that this is the most famous song for Fergie. That one ring a bell for you, Lance?
Yeah, I know the tune.
You got a feeling?
I got it. Yeah.
More of a nighttime song than a morning song. We don't even have to listen to the words. There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Another big one a lot of folks may not realize today, David Jansen, great actor, probably the voice that you would never forget once you actually see him and he speaks. But he was like Richard Diamond, Private Detective, and O'Hara, U.S. Treasury. Those are shows, but he's a great actor too. But he passed away in 1980. Today would have been his birthday, 93 years old. I'm a big Jansen fan. His voice is just so iconic. You can't forget it once you hear it. It's so unique. It's a very nonchalant but serious at the same time. It's amazing how he pulls that off.
On this day, 400 years ago, 400 years and change, the Spaniard Juan Ponce de Leon and his expedition first laid their eyes on what is now the state of Florida.
They're looking for that fountain of youth.
Yeah, they were looking for the fountain of youth, and instead they saw Disney World. Who knew that was going to keep them young?
Perpetual youth there.
Pulled out the old spotting glass.
There
My God, is that Cinderella's castle that I said? Those are fireworks. Wow. 400 years ago.
Feels like Disney's been around that long.
Yeah, it really does. This day in 1980, Mount St. Helens in the state of Washington became active for the first time in 123 years. Mount St. Helens is an active stratovolcano located in Skamania County, Washington. It's about 52 miles northeast of Portland and about 100 miles south of Seattle. So this is not Volcano Day, as they still celebrate it or remember it in the Pacific Northwest. That was May 18th. That's when the major eruption happened. But it really got going. There was a big old column of steam that escaped on this day, the 27th of March in 1983. That major eruption in May of 1980 remains the deadliest and most economically destructive volcanic event in U.S. history. You had 57 people that were killed, 200 homes, 47 bridges, 15 miles of railway, 185 miles of highway were all destroyed. There was a massive debris avalanche triggered by a magnitude 5.1 earthquake. And the elevation of the summit of Mount St. Helens was reduced from almost 9,700 feet to about 8,300 feet, leaving a 1 mile wide horseshoe-shaped center of the mountain. A couple of more events that happened on this day. We'll tell you about those when we come back. We've also got some news headlines for you. We'll get to sports and the Mississippi Lottery. Trey Lamar will join us this morning, House Representative from District 8, Chair of the Ways and Means Committee. Sean Tindell from the Department of Public Safety will be along in the 8 o'clock hour. Good morning to you. This is MRC on Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Venom.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
A couple of other semi-significant events on this day, 27th of March in history. 1985, professional wrestler Hulk Hogan acquiesces to put interviewer Richard Belzer in a hold. Belzer passed out, hit his head on the floor, and he required 9 stitches. And so what did he do? He sued Hulk Hogan, asking for $5 million in damages for personal injury. They ultimately settled out of court, and Belzer used the proceeds from the lawsuit to buy a home in France.
What if he voted in the last election? No, that's right. He passed away.
This day in 1995, at the 67th Academy Awards, Forrest Gump, Jessica Lange, and Tom Hanks were big winners. Forrest Gump won Best Picture. Hanks won Best Actor in a Leading Role, which happened for the second consecutive year. He had been named Best Actor for the movie Philadelphia the year before. You got Best Director, Best Visual Effects, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Film in Editing. That was all at the 67th Academy Awards. My wife cannot stand that movie.
You don't like Forrest Gump?
No, I didn't say I don't. I said she doesn't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was listening to something while you were talking too. Trying to get some songs plugged in here. But some people love it or hate it. It really is one of those. I remember walking into the theater. It was like my mother and sister and I. We were so excited about going to see Forrest Gump. Bought a ticket and everything. Went in. Theater was pretty packed, and the movie was already on. We thought, and we sat down and got settled in. We were there for maybe 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then the feather floats out of the sky and comes down, or whatever it was, and and everybody gets up and leaves, and we're like, "What just happened?" We'd gone in the wrong theater, saw the last 5 minutes spoiler of the movie.
Oh no!
Yeah, so we're like, "Oh goodness!" So we had to go to the other theater where we were supposed to be, and missed like the first 30 minutes of the movie. So it was the biggest mess. So I think we ended up seeing it 3 times, ended up seeing it once. The whole thing was.
Shouldn't it? Do they give an Academy Award for Best Soundtrack?
Oh, amazing soundtrack too.
It's pretty good, pretty good. Jenny, terrible person.
Jenny,
terrible person.
Yeah, she wanted to be joined by as a folk singer, too. Yeah. A nude one, I guess.
Selfish?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, here's some news headlines for you. An appeals court will not lift James Boasberg's order blocking the Trump administration from swiftly deporting migrants under the Alien Enemies Act. The Justice Department has urged the three-judge panel on the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia to immediately block the order, casting it as an intrusion on the president's executive authority over national security. This case has very clearly attracted significant attention after the administration leveraged the rarely used law to quickly deport hundreds of migrants officials claim are Venezuelan gang members, primarily from Trinidad, to a notorious El Salvador prison. That makes all the sense in the world, right? Why would you want to get rid of bad people in the United States that are doing bad things to Americans? You wouldn't want to give the president the ability to tell those people to vamoose. It's headed for the Supreme Court.
Or maybe just people that aren't supposed to be here. Do they have to be Venezuelan gang members to get deported back?
No, they don't.
No, I'm just asking a rhetorical question.
Yeah,
really.
I'm with you. They're not supposed to be here, period. But, you know, from the beginning, Tom Homan has told us we're going to start out with the worst of the bunch.
Well, my point is, it seems to me like there's two sides of this, right? There's people that want to abide by and enforce law and order, and then you have a whole party that has a real problem with that. And mystery to me, I don't know, other than to maybe build some votes and cheap labor, things like that. But yeah, it's an oddity.
Two lucky players recently walked away from Pearl River Resort with more than $1 million in their pockets. The resort in Choctaw, right outside of Philadelphia, reported Monday that on March 10th, a player from Gordo, Alabama, struck gold with a $1.1 million jackpot at Silver Star Casino. And then just a few days later, a Mississippian from Decatur hit it big, winning a little over $1 million at Golden Moon Casino, right across the street. President and CEO of Pearl River Resort, Tim Hill, said, "It looks like the madness of March has spilled over from the sports book onto the gaming floor. We're excited for each of these $1 million winners. Great to see just one guest have such a memorable experience, but having two brings the excitement to a whole new level. The winners cashed in on the same slot game. Again, not the same machine, not even in the same casino. They were across the street from each other. But both of them were playing Buffalo Power Play. The Wild West-themed game is available at both casinos, which are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Congratulations.
Yeah, gordo in Spanish, that word means fat. So somebody's got a fat pocketbook heading back to Gordo, Alabama. They'll be eating good.
Country music giant Luke Bryan is coming to the Magnolia State this fall. The Mississippi Coast Coliseum and Convention Center announced that the award-winning singer will be performing at the Biloxi venue on the 7th of September. That's Saturday, September 7th, as part of his Country Song Came On tour. From the Mississippi legislature and the governor's office, a bill that will allow state employees to stay home with newborns or newly adopted children without suffering financial detriment was signed into law by Governor Tate Reeves earlier this week. House Bill 1063, dubbed the Mississippi State Employees Paid Parental Leave Act, glided through the original House vote 114-0. It was not that easy in the Senate. The Senate amended the bill, lowering the leave period from 8 weeks to 6 weeks, and they passed the measure 3515. It went back to the House. This time the House unanimously approved the legislation 118-0, and the governor signed it into law. It goes into effect January 1st of next year. Will offer paid parental leave to employees who have worked with a state agency for at least 1 calendar year. Eligible employees designated as the primary or secondary caregivers of a child will be entitled to 6 weeks off work, being paid 100% of their salaried earnings. It's good news for parents with children. Especially, so there are a lot of people that are fortunate to have family close, right? And you have a baby and a mom or a grandmother or a mother-in-law or a cousin or whatever comes and they helps. They help. And, there's just a lot, especially for your first child. You're trying to figure it out. You're wondering if you're ever going to be able to sleep again. And so having a little bit of time to bond with a newborn certainly feels like a good thing.
I don't see how parents do it, Richard. I really don't. My sister with 2, and watching how much love and care goes into raising children, and just from day one, too. I mean, it's amazing. And so, yes, we ought to do whatever we can to give parents a little time with their children. And because you guys I'm not a parent, but I'll tell you, I have so much respect for parents. I mean, what is put in your lap to do every day to ensure that those children are educated, well-fed, taken care of, loved? I mean, it's as they say, it takes a community to raise a child, but you have to have the parents to really lead it and go. And it is a full-time job. So anytime you can give some parents some time with their children, especially newborns, man, I mean, that's a great thing.
Yeah. I completely agree. I don't know how people do it that don't have family close.
Oh, I don't either. I can't see.
And
how
I'm not
it's
just talking about a newborn. I'm talking about raising kids.
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunate to have family around here, and hopefully most do. But I don't. It really tugs at my heart, though. It's kind of an emotional thing. It really always sets me back a little bit when I think about that, because the folks that don't have that support structure and that safety net of family, golly, I can't imagine it.
Finally, longtime Mississippi education leader Dr. Laurie Todd Smith was sworn in as the top education official at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services earlier this week. President Donald Trump tabbed the longtime Mississippi education administrator as the Assistant Secretary for Early Childhood Education. In the new role, Todd Smith will lead the government's federal program and manage policies geared toward optimizing education for young children, along with increasing access to quality education for American children. There was a lot of talk about the recent success that the state of Mississippi has had with early childhood reading and some of the progress that has been made there, perhaps a model that the United States would benefit from under Dr. Laurie Todd Smith's leadership. And interesting that she goes in at HHS, not the Department of Education, which, if President Trump gets his way, will continue to be dismantled in the days and weeks to come. We're back with you on Mornings with Richard Cross right after this.
From Sumner to Summit to Summerall, Richard has something for you. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Spies like us. Oh, soul finger. Is that Soul Finger by the Barclays?
Mornings with Richard Cross with you on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for being with us. C Spire text line is always open to you, 601-879-4395. In sports and in business, having the right team behind you matters. Partner with C Spire today for business solutions from dedicated, certified IT engineers. Learn more at cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. A couple of quick messages on the C Spire text line before we get into some sports headlines. Deb in Wesson says, my youngest son is now moving back home. When does one actually get them raised? It's a reasonable question, Deb. Never. It is a lifelong process. My mom is still doing a little bit of raising of me.
Yeah, my mom stays on top of that, and so does my dad. They see you as 15 all the time, and that's okay.
I don't think my mom sees me as that.
I think my mom wishes I was
she doesn't overstep, but she's got a strong opinion. She'll let me know from time to time. Certainly always there to offer help, and it's just the best. Just the best. Deb, I hope there is good in your son coming back home, and it's not a burden for him or for you. This was a serious question, and I think an important one. And to be honest with you, I got to keep doing a little bit of digging. This question, are teachers covered under this new law that you referenced a second ago, House Bill 1063, that was signed into law by the governor? As I read it, the answer to that is yes and no. House Bill 1063 does not explicitly extend the paid parental leave to educators. But in Section 11, it's Section 1, number 11, it says the Board of Trustees of any public school district and the Board of Trustees of any community or junior college district is authorized to adopt a policy in addition to any other leave policies of the district to provide for paid parental leave for employees of the district that includes the same or substantially the same provisions as those of the Mississippi State Employees Paid Parental Leave Act. So if I'm reading that correctly, this bill does not specifically grant that 6 weeks of paid leave to a primary caregiver, but it does give the board at school districts the opportunity to provide that if they are able to do so. I don't know why that was not specifically included. Trey Lamar will join us this morning, and Lance, help me remember to ask Trey about that.
Yes, sir. And
that specific language in that bill. And by the way, it's primary caregiver and the secondary caregiver as well. And so the most common application of that would be the primary caregiver, if we say the mother, is entitled to 6 weeks of paid parental leave, and the father, in this example, would be entitled to 2 weeks of paid parental leave as well. That's assuming that they are an eligible employee. Or if you've got two eligible employees in the house. You have to, if you've got both two state employees in the household, then you have to designate which is the primary and which is the secondary. So, how does House Bill 1 affect PERS? If you will allow me, I'm gonna put a bookmark on that, and we'll come back to it, because that's a little bit longer answer. You're talking about the new house cut bill or tax cut bill for the state. Here's the short answer. If I cannot say this any more clearly, as the bill was passed, if you are currently or have previously been part of the PERS system as it exists today, absolutely nothing changes for you. Your benefits do not change. Your contribution doesn't change. The match actually gets bigger than it is right now from the state. But nothing changes about what you have been promised or what you are contractually owed by the state of Mississippi from the time you entered PERS. That's if you're currently a member or previously have been a member and you didn't close out your account. So the only exception to the if you have previously been a member is you were a state employee, you were part of PERS, you left the state after some number of years of service, and you moved your entire retirement account out of PERS into a different system. You rolled it into a different retirement program. You felt the need to cash it out completely for whatever reason. Then you would be part of the new Tier 5 system. So when you ask what effect does it have on PERS, if you're currently part of the system, if you are previously part of the system, if you've retired and you are collecting benefits, nothing changes. The changes occur for employees that begin work March 1st of 2026, I think was the date. And the new system is a hybrid that is a combination defined benefit and defined contribution plan. A little bit different than the current system.
You're correct. March 1st, 2026.
26.
Nailed
okay.
it.
There you go. So if you're employed between now and March 1st by the state, then you're eligible for the current PERS system, not the hybrid Tier 5 system that we're going to moving forward. All right, a couple of sports headlines for you. You've got baseball that gets started this evening for both Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Florida in town. Florida Gators 0-6 to start conference play, taking on number 15 Ole Miss, who swept Missouri last weekend. And the Rebels are currently 4-2 in conference play, coming off a win against Memphis in the midweek. 7 o'clock tonight on ESPNU. SEC Network tonight at 7 o'clock. Mississippi State in Baton Rouge taking on number 8 LSU. Mississippi State got their first conference win last Friday against Oklahoma, dropped the last 2 games of that series. Bulldogs are currently 1-5 in the SEC. LSU coming in 4-2 in the league as well. Rest of the slate for SEC baseball for the weekend gets going tomorrow. Number 11 Auburn at number 3 Georgia, number 9 Oklahoma at number 12 Alabama, number 1 Tennessee on the road at South Carolina, number 7 Texas traveling to Columbia, Missouri. Kentucky is at Texas A&M. And you got number 2 Arkansas at number 14 Vanderbilt. So those are the games that are happening this weekend in the SEC. Current baseball standings, by the way, I'll quickly give you these. Nobody undefeated in conference play. Through 2 weekends, you do not have a single SEC team that is undefeated in league play. Arkansas, Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas are all 5-1. At 4-2, you've got Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt. Kentucky is 2-4. Mississippi State and South Carolina 1-5. Florida, Missouri, and Texas A&M all winless, all at 0-6 in conference play. And the Sweet 16 gets started tonight. First game up, BYU and Alabama. That one's on CBS. Tip-off just after 6 p.m. tonight. Then Maryland and Florida play the second game of the early session. BYU Alabama is in Newark, New Jersey. San Francisco for Maryland and Florida. Back to Newark for Arizona and Duke. That one tips off around 8:40 tonight. And then the late start game is Arkansas, a 10 seed in the East region, and Texas Tech, a 3 seed in the East region. And nothing says geographical anomaly quite like playing the East region finals in San Francisco, California.
Somebody didn't get a lot of geography lessons in school, I don't think.
South region, you got Ole Miss and Michigan State tipping off just after 6 p.m. tomorrow night. The later game is Michigan and Auburn. And then Kentucky, Tennessee, that's in the Midwest. Playing it in Indianapolis, geographically accurate.
Yeah, they got that one right.
And then Purdue and Houston in the later tip time. Get in the door ticket prices have gone down a little bit in Atlanta. $392 will get you in the arena to watch either Ole Miss, Michigan State, and or Michigan, Auburn. So that's just a few quick sports headlines for you as we go into this Thursday. Take a time out. We got an update from the Mississippi Lottery when we come back with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
In fact, all the people were sold in this. Little Mahalia Jackson in there.
From the back.
Morning, partner. The sun is up, the coffee is on, and you're starting your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Good morning to you. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. So did we go back to back? We had a winner in the Mega Millions on Tuesday night. Was there a winner in Powerball last night? We'll tell you in just a second. We start, though, with Lotto America, where there was no jackpot winner yesterday. When the numbers 16, 19, 30, 37, 47 popped out with a star ball of 6 and all-star bonus multiplier of 2. Because there was no winner, the jackpot goes to $27.5 million with an estimated cash value of almost $13 million. You had that big Powerball drawing last night. The numbers were 5, 20, 29, 39, and 53. The Powerball was 6. The Power Play multiplier was 3. Was there a winner? No. And so, this Saturday, March 29th, the estimated jackpot goes to over $500 million. $515 million with an estimated cash value of $242,700,000. We are almost, Lance, to the point where we're talking about real money.
Well, that's campaign money. I mean, $100 million of that, and you could buy a federal judgeship maybe in, Minnesota?
Or
Wisconsin, yeah.
Wisconsin, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. It probably goes up.
All right. So, no Powerball winner. Pot keeps growing. Good for that.
Well, you got double play. The numbers from the Wednesday, March 27th drawing, those were 26, 32, 41, 51, and 66 with a Powerball of 22. You had a Mega Millions jackpot winner, as we know. Mm-hmm. The Mega Millions ticket matched all 6 numbers in the March 25th drawing, plus the Mega Ball to win the game's jackpot worth an estimated $344 million. Take home on that was about $159 million. According to the lottery officials, the winning ticket was purchased at Casey's General Store in Cortland, Illinois. The estimated jackpot for the Friday 27th drawing resets to $20 million, and the estimated take-home pay on that would be $9.2 million. Numbers we know from Tuesday, nobody won those, and that was 1, 5, 17, 39, 62, Mega Ball of 8, and a Mega Power multiplier of 2.
I'm curious what the tax implication is in the state of Illinois. I mean, obviously, if you win that big of a jackpot, you're coming out pretty good regardless. But let's see here, on 159,100,000, is that what it was? 159,160. Let's see what you got. 24% federal initially, and then 4.95% in the state. That's actually not that bad.
And then the Obamas get a cut, right? They got
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. NASCAR Powerball Playoff returns. The Mississippi Lottery bringing back the NASCAR Powerball Playoff. You could be the next big winner. 7 qualifying races, 15 winners, cash prizes totaling more than $50,000. The promo starts today, and the earlier you enter, the better your chances with the early bird bonus cash prize. No purchase necessary. You've got to be a Mississippi Lottery insider. Not a Mississippi Lottery insider? No problem. Go to mslottery.com, click the Lottery Insider tab, and sign up. Doesn't cost you a thing. Don't miss out on this promotion where you could be entered to win a trip to Phoenix Raceway for the NASCAR Championship weekend. That's October 31st, November 1st, November 2nd. Drive away with $1 million in the NASCAR Powerball Playoff. Let's talk some winners. How about Cash 4?
Well, cash for, we had a handful in there with a Mobile, Alabama man, $2,700 richer, a Louisville woman, Louisville man, $2,700 in winnings on a ticket from Zippin' 2 in Ackerman.
Might have identified as a woman. Possibly.
Well, there is a third gender, apparently. There's a great debate on that. So, a Hattiesburg man, $3,303 on a ticket from Fastmart 4 in Hattiesburg. A Vicksburg man won $6,750 using 5 tickets. Did that at the MK Mart in Vicksburg. And then a Hazelhurst man won $12,700 on 2 tickets from Sweet Peas, number 76 in Hazelhurst.
Cash pop. Let's see here. $1,000 for a Hattiesburg woman, a Boyle woman, a Bentonia woman, a Monticello man, and a Fayette man. A West Point woman won $1,250 on a ticket from the Smokestack in West Point. A Madison man won $100,000 on a Powerball ticket from Lakeside Food Mart in Brandon. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
The $1 scratch-off 3 times lucky yielded a $3,000 winning ticket for a Forest man. Purchased it at Mini Food Mart in Forest, Mississippi. And a FEMA man won $2,000 on a ticket from Sprint Mart in West Point. That is your Mississippi Lottery update. Online, you can find them at mslottery.com. Thanks for playing, and good luck. 7 o'clock hour on the way. Trey Lamar will join us about 25 minutes from right now.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
No matter where you're from, Abbeville, Batesville, DeIberville, or any other ville in the SIP, you're starting your day off right. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Good morning, 7 o'clock hour. As you get your day started, we welcome you to Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Don't worry. We've got an hour already. Even if you're just joining us and you missed the first hour of the show, that's okay. Hit on some news headlines, gave you some stuff that is going on this day historically, talk some birthdays, sports headlines. If you missed any of it and you got an hour to kill later in the day, you can listen on demand at supertalk.fm, or you can download Mornings with Richard Cross as a podcast. Maybe 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. is not convenient for you. You got other things going on in the mornings, but you want to make sure that you're staying up to date with all the news that matters in the state of Mississippi and how news at the federal level affects us. Just subscribe. Just search Super Talk Mississippi wherever you get your podcasts, and you can... It's almost like it is delivered to you free of charge every single day. Really, really easy to do. And we would appreciate that very much. C-Spire text line is open at 601-879-4395. We appreciate our friends at C-Spire. And you know that they're going to take care of you. Your team has you covered on the field. C-Spire has you covered everywhere else with the best technology for home, work, and on the road, backed by local 24/7 customer support. That means when you call them and you have a question, you are not speaking to someone 12 time zones and half a world away. No, you're speaking to someone who speaks the same language as you. They talk Mississippi when you call them. You'll be able to understand them. 24/7 customer support. Learn more at cspire.com. C-Spire, inspired by you. If your name's James, do friends call you Jimmy? Or are you offended by that? You think I would offend the Honorable Judge James Boasberg? I just called him Jimmy moving forward? Because I think I'm going to, Lance.
Yeah, go for it.
I think he's going to be Jimmy again. You know that name probably by now. Jimmy Boasberg is the one that issued the order that said, stop those planes. And if they're in the air, bring them back. And Trump was like, sorry, they're already gone. Not going to happen. We're not turning around. They're headed to jail in El Salvador. And Jimmy said, no, and we're going to get to the bottom of this. You ignored my order. And they're like, actually, we didn't. You had a written order, and it spelled out exactly what we had to do. Now, you said some other things, but you didn't write it down. And we all know that in the legal profession, words matter. And if a judge doesn't write it down in his order, then it becomes a little less enforceable, and perhaps the Trump administration found a loophole. There's already bad blood between Judge Jimmy Boasberg and the Trump administration. Guess what? There is already a lawsuit related to the classified/unclassified information that went into the Signal chat where the journalist Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic was included. So it's going to court. It's going to a D.C. district court. Would you care to take a guess which judge is going to hear the case involving Signal? You want to take a wild guess? Jimmy Boasberg going to be on the bench for this one as well. Now, I'm sure that this was a completely random judicial assignment for this case. You know, my guess is there's a dartboard on the wall, and it's got all the different judges' names on it that could potentially hear a case in a given district. And you have somebody that is assigned to throw a dart, but they have to do it blindfolded. And wherever that dart lands, that's the judge that gets the case. It couldn't be that there is one specific judge that is anti-one party or anti-one administration, and he keeps being assigned specific cases. Donald Trump was not pleased. He sounded off on Truth Social early this morning about Jimmy Boasberg of the U.S. District Court of District Columbia, the District of Columbia, being assigned to preside over a lawsuit lodged against several Trump administration officials and the National Archives and Records Administration. Boasberg was an Obama-nominated district judge. Here's what Trump wrote. How disgraceful it is that Judge Jimmy Boasberg, he said James, actually. What if the president started calling him Jimmy? I feel like a great win. He assigns nicknames all the time. Judge James Boasberg has been given a fourth Trump case, something which is statistically impossible. There is no way for a Republican, especially a Trump Republican, to win before him. He is highly conflicted, not only in his hatred of me, massive Trump derangement syndrome, but also because of disqualifying family conflicts. Boasberg, who is the chief judge of the D.C. District Court, seems to be grabbing the Trump cases all to himself, even though it is not supposed to happen that way. Is there such a thing as the wheel, where the judges are chosen fairly and at random? Trump goes on to say in his post, the good news is that it probably doesn't matter because it is virtually impossible for me to get an honest ruling in D.C. Our nation's courts are broken, with New York and D.C. being the most preeminent of all in their corruption and radicalism. There must be an immediate investigation of this rigged system before it is too late. I actually have a question. During the Trump campaign, the presidential campaign season, most people would look at some of the prosecution of Donald Trump during the time between when he was president and when he became president again and say, this isn't right the way this is playing out. Now, there may be some stuff there, as it pertains to Trump, but this is a wild goose chase. I think most reasonable people can look at it and can see that the judicial system was weaponized against a former president because of the hatred that so many on the left had for Donald Trump. Like, I don't think that's going too far out on a limb. And we heard throughout the campaign season accusations from the Biden and then Harris campaign that if Donald Trump is elected, he is going to weaponize the justice system. He is going to go after his political adversaries. And I actually argued during that time that history would tell you that really he's not. He didn't do that in his first administration. He's got a lot more to focus on. Now, that has turned out not to be entirely accurate. This Trump Department of Justice, under the leadership of Pam Bondi, has gone after some people that would be considered political adversaries. But regardless of where you fall, right or left, Trump supporter, Biden/Harris supporter, somewhere in the middle, do you not look at the judicial system as it exists right now and say we've got a significant problem? Whether it was the Biden administration going after Trump in a corrupt system, or now that Trump is back in office, appointed judges undercutting the President of the United States and his executive orders at every single turn, every single decision that someone on the left doesn't like, immediately there is a lawsuit filed, and this administration and the Justice Department, in an exceptional waste of taxpayer money, has to go and fight it in court. But I don't know that either side is immune. I mean, it's always been this way to some degree, but we have never seen the number of lawsuits filed in opposition of executive action like we have seen with Donald Trump as president. I have no idea how you change this. Like, how do you change it when you've got lifetime appointments? Trey Lamar joins us next.
From the Beneville. All right, now to the important stuff.
Your VIP pass to hear what the most influential Mississippians are talking about.
This is very important.
Huge news. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Good morning again. Welcome back. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. C-Spire text line is open to you. This hour of the show is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough. And if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today. 601-206-7966 or go to mwgemployerservices.com. We welcome once again to the program Representative Trey Lamar, Chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, District 8. Lance suggested to me earlier this morning that we should have some sort of like attendance award. You know, when you make 5 appearances on the show, you get a gold star, and then you get like a free lunch pass when you hit 10 appearances. And
yeah,
we're going to owe you a bunch of lunches.
Well, I'm glad to help. It's been a big year, and Richard, what a day for the state of Mississippi. We get to celebrate a little later on today the bill signing of the elimination of the tax on work in Mississippi, and we're going to enjoy it today. It's been a long fought and hard battle.
We're going to get to that in a second, but I got something else for you. I would like for you to take off your legislator hat just for a second and put on your lawyer hat. We're talking about judicial overreach and partisan judges before the break. And I would argue that we're in a spot where the justice system is broken. Mississippi has nonpartisan judicial elections, but we know that judges are supported by Republicans or Democrats. That's just kind of the way that it works. What are you seeing in terms of, as an attorney, judges that are partisan one way or another, and like regardless of which side you fall on the issue, I think almost everybody can look at it and be like, okay, this is a problem. I don't even know how you begin to fix it when you've got lifetime appointments to so many of these district federal judgeships.
Well, partisanship has no place in the courtroom, especially by the person who's wearing the black robe. Now, we're all human. Humans run the court system, so no system is perfect. We know that. But blatant partisanship should be as far away from the judicial bench as possible. And look, there are probably reforms both on the federal and across the various states across America that could be made to make that better. You can't keep somebody from getting in the middle of races when you elect judges. That's just that's a constitutional right that people have. But when that judge puts on that black robe after taking the oath of office, he or she better have a good constitution about themselves to be able to make hard decisions that are as free from politics as possible.
But do you, when you look at some of these rulings that are clearly partisan rulings, because of the guy who's sitting in the Oval Office right now, there are a lot of people that don't like him. There's certainly a lot of people on the left that don't like him. And you see judges that are taking positions that are clearly in opposition to Donald Trump because of who he is, not so much because of, what a particular executive order says. I mean, does that not create a level of concern for you?
It does. No, it's certainly a concern, and there is a judicial complaint process at the federal level and at the various states level. And if there are judges, which there are out there, being overly partisan or making statements that they should not make, then they need to be reported to the complaint tribunals. And there's a process for that. Sometimes it doesn't get the process does not get reported or followed through the way it should, but that needs to happen, because that's when a lot of times the court system is the last. The buck stops there. That's the last resort. I mean, you've seen from the president to all over the country a million times. I mean, it's you get into the court system and there's nothing else. And you get past Congress, you get past the legislative branch, the courts usually have the final say. And so it's a very important position, and it needs to be treated as such. And the erosion of the judicial branch of government in the United States of America would be a terrible thing, and we cannot let that happen.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it kind of feels like it's happening right in front of our faces, and again, not sure exactly how we change that. All right, let's put your legislator hat back on. And you said a second ago, a historic day tonight, this evening, I think 5 o'clock, the governor is set to sign House Bill 1 into law. There was a lot of work that went into this, a lot of back and forth, at times bad blood. You get to the end, and both the House and the Senate leadership on both sides and members on both sides ultimately saying, hey, this was a really special thing for Mississippi because of the stakes, because of how high the stakes were in all of this. Yes, there may have been a little bit of acrimony along the way, but ultimately what happened was good for Mississippians, and I think that makes today a day worth celebrating.
But it definitely does. Look, the legislative process is messy. It's designed that way. That's the way it's designed, and I'm thank God for it, because, the process that we came from was where the king made a decision, and 10 minutes later, it was all off with the head. So, the fact that the legislative process is ugly and messy and takes time, and it was designed that way intentionally. So I know people sometimes get frustrated with the legislature or Congress. It is working the way it was designed to work. Now, sometimes it works better than others, but it's supposed to be a messy process and a difficult process. And when you're talking about major change, especially transformational change for the future generations of Mississippi, we never expected that to be easy. And that's something that I have kind of made my life's work of my political career is trying to eliminate the tax burden on working Mississippians, and which would culminate in the elimination of the income tax in the state of Mississippi for those that work. And it has been a long, hard-fought battle. We started prior to 2016 discussing this and working on it. We got part of the reforms in 2016, the next part of the reforms in 2022. And then it culminates today with the signing of House Bill 1 at the governor's mansion. And, we're going to take just a few minutes and celebrate that for the future of Mississippi.
Even to the very end of the debate, the very end of the conversation, there was drama. And I guess some drama remains, the case of the decimal point. And I know that's not something that you want to dwell on, but it is a significant piece of this conversation. The Senate made amendments to House Bill 1. They voted on it. They passed it. And I was there the day, and I know you were on the floor that day kind of listening to the debate. There's no doubt that senators believed that they were voting on something that turned out to be different because of a punctuation mark in the text of the bill. What does that mean in the grand scheme of things as it pertains to this bill? Because it got a whole lot closer to what the House wanted to do in terms of getting rid of the state income tax. It's going to speed up the timeline because of the triggers.
Well, let me just say this. So you're talking to the guy that handled the legislation in the House, where we voted more times than I can even count to eliminate the income tax without any triggers. Okay, right? We because some people asked for it back in 2021. We did have some trigger language, and then we worked again on it in 22 and continued to study it in 23 and 24 and passed it several times this year in 25 without any triggers at all. And we showed how the math can work. Now, we were in those bills, we were moving around some consumption taxes, but still a huge more than $1 billion tax cut every time we passed that bill. And, I'm not afraid to pass the bill without triggers. I've told this to people multiple times. Although we have a job as legislators to do the budget, our main job is to look after the taxpayers and look after the citizens that send us here and elect us to be down here and look after their interest. And I'm more concerned about the pocketbooks of the working Mississippians taking care of their families than I am about the state budget. The state budget will survive. The state budget will be fine. And right now we have been running historic surpluses. So what we ultimately decided to do was to give a substantial portion of those surpluses back to the taxpayers that sent it to Jackson, and then through a controlled, measured approach, eliminate the income tax, taking advantage of the normal growth of government, the normal growth of government revenues over about a 14-year period. I would have loved to have done it a little bit quicker, but that's the best deal that we could get at the end of the day for the working Mississippian. Now, you asked me a question about a decimal point. The Senate had trigger language in their bill, and I explained that on the House floor, that they had that in there. We the night before we took it up, we looked at it and we thought that it worked in a way that was favorable to the taxpayers, and so we decided to pass it. We learned around that time too that the Senate probably intended to do it a little bit differently. But let me tell you something. That is not a major problem in my mind, or the House. That is something that can be addressed later on in this session. It's something that can be addressed next session or any time over the next 5 years, because that language does not even kick in until about 2030 or 2031. So there's plenty of time to look at that. And for anybody who's dwelt on that probably too much, let me just say that Delbert Hoseman and Josh Harkins worked their tails off to get the most transformative piece of legislation passed through the Mississippi Senate, and my hat is off to those guys. They did a yeoman's work in the Mississippi Senate, and I will be forever grateful to them.
You're saying all the right things, but people have followed this pretty closely, and I think people know that there's a pretty significant difference between 85% and 85/100%. We'll continue this conversation on the other side. Trey Lamar, Chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, represents District 8. Quick timeout. We're back with you. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Pick a mess of it, carry it home and cook it for supper, because that's about all they had to eat.
From the segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Wake up, get up, and start your day right with Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Trey Lamar is my guest, District 8 Representative, Chair of the House Ways and Means Committee. This evening, late this afternoon, I think around 5 o'clock, the governor will sign House Bill 1 into law. House Bill 1 originally put together by the House of Representatives, amended by the Senate, passed, sent back to the House, and they quickly passed it. And it is a law that at its core is about the elimination of the state income tax over an extended period of time in Mississippi. It also includes a reduction in the gas tax. I'm sorry, that's not right. A reduction in the grocery tax, an increase in the gas tax, ultimately to 9 cents with indexing, and then you've got a change to PERS as well, going to that Tier 5 system. There's a lot there, and there's a lot, I think, that is important for Mississippi. And boiling this conversation down to a decimal point or a punctuation error is unfair, because I do think there was a lot of compromise that was here. The House gave up on some things that my understanding is you and your colleagues believed was really, really important. The Senate gave in on some things that they believed was really, really important to ultimately get this piece of legislation across the finish line. With that said, knowing that we had a punctuation error, the decimal point, that this conversation that has gone on for the last week, and recognizing that that was unintentional, that it was an error, but going ahead and pushing the bill through, are you concerned about the relationship between leadership in the House and the Senate moving forward, that there's a carryover effect from what might be classified or categorized by some as distrust between the two sides because there was not maybe a little more grace extended here?
No, I'm not, Richard, and let me explain that.
Okay.
This did not happen in a vacuum. Okay, I said this earlier that I've been working on this for more than 10 years. Okay, I went back through the 2016 bill, 2022 bill, in 2021. People don't want to talk about that year, but that's the year that after COVID that I worked on a bill and worked with former Speaker Philip Gunn on that bill. And in that particular year, we worked our tails off to bring forth this measure. And just stating facts, the deadline approached, and Lieutenant Governor Hoseman threw the bill in the trash can. And I still remember where I was when I got the phone call that we're not going to do that this year. We don't think that's the best course. And so my friends in the Senate, and I mean that, I have a lot of respect for those guys. They have had at times a lukewarm relationship toward the elimination of the income tax, and we have had to work our absolute tails off to try to prove to them that this is the best policy going forward for our future generations. Again, 22, we fought back and forth for a long time throughout that entire session, finally reached a deal on a more modest cut at that time than elimination, but still was a substantial cut. Continued those conversations in 23 and 24. And, everybody knows that's paying attention to this, what the House leadership, Speaker White, myself, have been through over the last year. I started drafting this bill more than a year ago. Mm-hmm. We had multiple public hearings, went all over the state talking about it, met with experts. Our plan was out in the open for months and months and months. We invited the Senate to work with us on that, and thankfully they did. They maybe not on the exact timeline that I would have asked for or would have liked, but at the end of the day, Senator Josh Harkins deserves a ton of credit for the work he did, and so does Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hoseman, because at the end of the day, I could not get votes in the Mississippi Senate. Those two individuals are the ones that worked the Mississippi Senate to get the votes that were needed to pass an actual income tax elimination bill through the Mississippi Senate, and that cannot be understated in any way. Should not be understated in any way. Those guys worked their butts off, and so when we get the bill last Wednesday and we're looking at this trigger language, which we had seen for the very first time that night, we start doing the math on it, and we look.
You had heard about it, but you're talking about in terms of actually seeing the text in the bill as amended.
That's right. So the bill passed. The bill didn't show up on the computers until it passed. I think it was Tuesday, which is the day it passed the Senate.
Right.
That particular night, I had to go home to attend to a family matter. Didn't get back in Jackson until sometime late Wednesday afternoon. And then that night, we began to study the bill, and we got to look at it, and we did the math on this trigger language that we were seeing for the first time. And at that point in time, all we knew was, look, this trigger language, we were very concerned that the language that we were going to read for the first time was going to, maybe possibly one day, 50 plus years from now, eliminate the income tax. And we did the math on the trigger. It didn't do that. We felt like it worked. Very modest growth had to be in place, but there's a lot more that goes into it than that, Richard. I feel like sometimes, like Rain Man, I got numbers floating around, around my head all the time. I've studied these left and right. The Mississippi revenue, our state revenue has grown historically at 3.5%. You break out the last the COVID years from a few years ago.
Yeah,
we still grew at 3%. And that
with all the federal funding that came in, it was only half a percentage point difference in growth?
Historically, on average, yes. And so you look at those numbers, and that includes the last 10-plus years of built-in tax returns. That's not exclusive of those numbers. That is inclusive of those numbers. And so, we feel very strongly that the state economy, we know there are multiple economic development projects coming down the pipe, record investments and capital investments and jobs all over the state. We just believe this is the best move. It's bold, it's transformational, it's historic, but, why not? Mississippi's been the last place for a lot of years. Let's do something big.
So let me stop you there for a second, because I do think that's a legitimate concern that people have. The where will the revenue be made up? So you can talk about growth, and if that continues, that's certainly a great thing. We expect that there are federal dollars that are going away, or at the very least, some of the things that the federal government is doing are going to cost the state of Mississippi more. I don't think that's going too far out on a limb. And there's a significant reduction of revenue for the state as the state income tax gets smaller. Now, one of the ways that was going to be offset was with what the House wanted, which was a 1.5% sales tax increase. That's not there, and so that takes a revenue piece out of this. Are you concerned about revenue moving forward?
So,
and I guess maybe the follow-up to that is, are we going to look up 3, 4, 5 years from now and have to borrow money to make the budget work in a way that we've not had to do for the last 2 and 3 years if you count this year?
I hope not. No, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the state of Mississippi will never borrow money again, just like you can't say that for your house or me for mine. But
no, I can't.
But what I can tell you is that the House plan, we had a much sharper cut out of the gate in year one. When we went from 4% to 3%, we kind of balanced that out with a slight sales tax increase. First bill, we did it at 1.5%, and then we went down to 1%. That didn't happen in this bill. So when we were looking at the changes that the Senate made, we had to make a decision. And we looked at the bill, and they were probably had given in on 70%. I would say of what the House was asking for. And at the end of the day, I feel in my heart, and after having multiple conversations, if we would have invited conference on this bill, it would have died. There is no doubt in my mind. And at the time, I knew that. And again, all the critics and the people asking questions about it out there, in the Twitter sphere and all that kind of stuff, they didn't know what we know. They weren't in that room and had to make those decisions. And so,
and for what it's worth, I mean, obviously you're very, very close to this, and way closer than I am. But there were conversations that I had on both sides of this issue that I thought the exact same thing. When I found out that you guys passed the bill as it was written, I said that's probably a good thing, because to your point, if it had gone to conference, it wasn't going to happen.
No, it wasn't.
The votes weren't there.
The bill was going to die, and so we had a small window of opportunity to reach out and grab a historic win for the people of Mississippi, and we weighed that against any potential negative consequences, and the positive decision to do that far outweighed any potential negative consequences. Now, since then, we've had some conversations. That decision was made, and we did it. And since then, we've had some conversations with the Senate, and I'll be happy to share some of those when we come back.
So if there is going to be an amendment to House Bill 1 to get it closer to what the Senate initially intended, you have to believe that there would be concessions from the Senate, that maybe the House would end up with more of what it wants in the bill or originally wanted in the bill. We'll talk about that. And we're also going to ask about what else for the House. Like, there's a little bit of time left in this session. Nobody's gone home yet. Is there any work left still to do? We continue to get questions about PBMs. We'll ask Trey Lamar about that and more. We'll squeeze as much as we can into the last 6 minutes of this conversation when we come back with you. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Beneville.
You're waking up to what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross. Right now on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Hello, Mississippi. This is Trey Lamar, chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, and you are listening to Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Hey, thanks for that introduction.
Hey, I'm not Richard Cross, but, every once in a while.
Good to be with you this morning. Trey Lamar is my guest, represents District 8. Senatobia is his home. He's in the Mississippi House of Representatives and the chair of the Ways and Means Committee. Let's hit a couple of other topics. We've talked tax. The bill's going to be signed today. I will ask you, do you think the Senate bill, which is still alive, could potentially end up on the governor's desk for signature with some amendments to it as the debate rolls on between the House and the Senate?
Yeah. That's a good segue into something that I want to make sure that your listeners hear me say. There has been some talk in the media about that the trigger language in the bill was not what the Senate may have intended. Let me say this: there's nobody in the Mississippi Senate that I respect more than Josh Harkins. Josh Harkins has become one of my dear friends. He's a fantastic human being, and I just want everybody to know I've had multiple conversations with him, including for a couple hours yesterday about continuing to work with him about some trigger language that both the House and the Senate can agree to going forward. Again, people are focused on that, but that doesn't even apply until after 2030. So there's 5 years before that even kicks in or would even apply in the bill. So there is plenty of time to address that. If that's in 3095 this session, then I've told him I'm certainly willing to continue to talk about that, because there are a few other things in the bill that that we wanted. We wanted a dedicated funding stream for PERS, and I think a lot of Mississippians who support PERS and who rely on that system wanted that as well. That's
in addition to the Tier 5 system?
Yes, in addition to the Tier 5. The Mississippi House fought extensively for a new $100 million annual stream to PERS that would help shore up that system for years to come until it gets in better shape. We're going to continue to push for that. That's one reason we didn't just want higher fuel tax just for the sake of it. Obviously, it was done within the confines of a huge net tax cut for the taxpayers, but we wanted that so we could repurpose the lottery money that is currently going to MDOT without cutting MDOT. We had to make it worthwhile for MDOT, but that's why, there's no secret. I think that the House would have agreed to an additional 3 cents on the gas tax over and above what the Senate did, and so that would have allowed us to free up that lottery money so we could steer it to PERS, and then that's dedicated funding. That's not something we have to come in and fight over every single year that could get jerked around in the appropriations process. So we felt like that was an important piece of the puzzle, and it didn't make it into the final bill, but we can continue to discuss that along with the trigger language that some of the senators wanted. The House, we didn't ever agree to an 85% to a 115% deal, and I've told Senator Harkins that and the Lieutenant Governor's office, but I am certainly willing to work with them to come up with a trigger language that is reasonable, and they know that. And people that are hung up on that need to get over that and get off the Senate's back on that, because typos and mistakes happen in this messy process every single year. I've certainly been guilty of it myself. We come back every single year and have to fix a bill or fix a statute that something got overlooked. And when you're dealing with over 3,000 bills in a messy legislative process, that happens every single year. So people need to get over that, and they need to focus on the historic day that today is, the day that the state of Mississippi eliminated the income tax, and set our future path forward on a better course.
Let me jump in with this real quick. We've only got 2 minutes left, and I wanted to get some other things. May run out of time on that. For the people that say there's a Republican supermajority, it shouldn't be this hard to get work done. And it's like, in the absence of being able to fight with Democrats, Republicans fight with each other. And that's kind of like national level, local level, et cetera. What do you say to those people?
Well, I mean, last I heard, spouses get married, and they still have arguments in their home every single day. So it's part,
but Democrats don't fight amongst themselves. they may in the lead up, but when it comes time to vote, every single one of them votes the same way.
Well, let me push back on that a little bit, Richard. You weren't at the Capitol yesterday, and I understand the Democratic Party in Mississippi had some long, heated battles where they elected some new leaders yesterday, and I just would ask your listeners to go look at the vote sheet in the House. There was probably more than 10 Democrats that voted with the Republicans on this tax cut.
I will concede that at the state level. I suppose I'm talking more at the federal level. When it comes to significant legislation, they all line up. They all get on board.
Yeah. And look, I am gladly not an expert on national Democrat politics, and I can't explain that anymore.
You're avoiding the question.
Yeah. Well, you're right on that. And look, I can't explain it. My politics are so far away from the national Democrats where they are this day, I wouldn't even know how to answer that question.
Okay. Why can't Republicans in Mississippi agree more often?
That's a fine question. All I can tell you is we try, and it's not always easy, but there's a lot more that we agree on than we don't sometimes.
Okay. Hopefully we can have you back again soon.
Well,
we don't mess up your attendance streak.
No, your listeners are probably tired of hearing me for a while, but it's a big day for Mississippi. We eliminated the tax on work, and we're going to celebrate that today for our future generations.
Thanks for your time, Chairman Trey Lamar.
Thank you.
Mornings with Richard Cross. We're back after this.
You're waking up Mississippi. From South Haven to Scuba, it's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Found a dime, load it up and truck it. Are we gonna do what they say can't be done? We've got a long way to go and a short time to get there. I'm eastbound.
8 o'clock hour. Feels like we've been at this for a little while, although it's gone quickly. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for joining us as you get your day going. We're spending more time in the kitchen and more time around the table. Pork makes it possible with thousands of delicious dishes from across the world. 100% real pork. Brought to you by America's pig farmers. Discover new flavors at pork.org/real pork. Quick reminder, this afternoon, Steve Azar comes along with In a Mississippi Minute. It's an interview with Peter Nimrod, who not only serves on Mississippi's levee board, but also owns the legendary Sherman's Restaurant in Greenville. In a Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar, presented by Superior Catfish. Remember, there's catfish, then there is Superior Catfish. For more, go to superiorcatfish.com. From Representative Trey Lamar to the Commissioner, Sean Tindell from the Department of Public Safety. He joins us in studio this morning. Just wanted to give you a chance if you wanted to. Do you want to weigh in on the tax elimination bill that's being signed on the governor? Do you want to get into that conversation as we start things off?
From my perspective, that is something that's been on the table for a while. And, I know Chairman Lamar and the members of the Senate, Lieutenant Governor, and all really our leaders have taken a hard look at it, and they think it's the right course. And with the growth that we've had in the state and the anticipated growth in other revenue streams, they feel like we'll be all right. So we'll give it a shot and see.
Give it a shot and see. I thought you were simply going to say, I'll pass.
No, look, I think any conservative feels like the reduction and elimination of certain taxes is great. And what I think the Governor Reeves's point that, we don't want to do this and raise other taxes should be noted. And, you go to states like Florida and some other ones that don't have an income tax and their property taxes are much higher than ours. That, I don't want to see us go down that road either. And we can all take a look at our budgets and try to find ways that we can improve and save taxpayers money. But with every cut, there is the possibility that there are certain services that will be cut back a little bit too. I mean, you look at our agency, we have 1,500 employees, 900 law enforcement officers. We've been asked to do a lot in recent years with Capitol Police and others, which has caused an expansion in the size of our agency and the services that we provide. And that costs money. And at some point, if the money's not there, some of those services might be impacted. So those are things that we do each and every year when they come in and do the budget process, and we tell them what we think we need as an agency. They tell us what we're going to get, and then we go from there. And if in times in the past, during tough economic times, going back to the recession and even during COVID, we saw cuts in our budgets, 10% across the board during COVID. And so you get lean, you get mean, and you get going.
I think I mentioned this to you last time we talked. It was back in early January. The visibility of the Capitol Police in that kind of Capitol District within a few blocks, really all the way to the interstate and kind of stretching in different directions, it's incredible to me. When I think about maybe what I saw in terms of law enforcement presence in downtown Jackson years past, but I've been to the Capitol a few times there a week or two ago, and I couldn't go half a block without seeing a Capitol Police cruiser. Has the enhanced visibility played a role in the job that they're doing, in addition to the work protecting and investigating and all of the other responsibilities that exist with police officers?
Absolutely. And visibility
and maybe is that part of the strategy is the bigger question?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, when you have visibility, that's certainly a deterrent, and wanting to make sure that we have a fully staffed Capitol Police to cover the area that was the original CCID, and now that it's expanded and is set to expand again in July, that visibility is important. And when you spread that out too thin and law enforcement officers are not visible, I certainly think there's an impact. And then making sure that we're enforcing the laws, making sure that, if you commit a crime, we're going to investigate it. We're going to make arrest. We're not going to let you run traffic lights just in front of us. There will be a stop and there will be tickets issued. And that's really why the CCID Corps was also so important, is to make sure that, it's one thing if you write the tickets, but then there has to be an enforcement mechanism and a judicial process that concludes that. And that's why that CCID court is also such an important component now that it's up and going. And so, ultimately, and I talk to folks from Tupelo to Gulfport to DeSoto County over to Pearl River County, and I get asked a lot, why is the state investing in Capitol Police? We don't have that in our towns.
Right.
And I said, well, it is your capital city, and when you come to Jackson, you might be going to the Supreme Court or Court of Appeals, you might be going to the state capitol, you might be going to one of the multiple museums that we have, you could be going to one of the state agencies for a hearing, maybe the state fair, maybe one of the 5 universities that we have in the CCID. Your nephews, your daughters, your sons are going there, and you want to make sure that they're protected because this is your capital city, and you ought to be able to come to it and feel safe. And I will give credit to Jackson PD and the efforts that they have made to increase their numbers, to work hand in hand with us. A year ago, we launched Operation Unified with great success, working with Hinds County SO, working with JPD, Capitol Police, DPS, our federal law enforcement partners, all trying to get illegal drugs and guns off our street that were being used in a variety of crimes. And we have had great success with that, to the point that other areas of the state, we're also working with doing those same types of initiatives with local law enforcement partners.
Well, and I'm sure you saw the scathing remarks from the sheriff after the shooting downtown, not related to the St. Patty's Day Parade, but on the same day. And it's very, very clear that both the chief of police with Jackson Police Department and the Hinds County Sheriff are fully committed to trying to bring order and a reduction of crime, especially violent crime, in the capital city.
Absolutely. And they've been great partners to work with. And look, to the ones that thought that was the way to have a good time, I hope they enjoyed it, because next year won't be the same. I can assure you that it's not going to be tolerated, and there will be changes to how the St. Patty's Day Parade and the viewers and everything is going to go next year. So
I looked for the answer to this question for like 20 minutes last night till my eyes were going cross-eyed and I couldn't find it. Does MEMA fall under DPS?
No. Okay. MEMA is a standalone agency.
Okay, standalone.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And we work hand in hand a lot. And you know, all the things going on at DPS, one of the big things that we have in our legislative request this year is the final funding piece to complete our headquarters. Will actually be right by MEMA. So you'll have the Mississippi Fire Academy, the Department of Public Safety, our crime lab, and MEMA all in one area, which would really be a public safety corridor when you think about it. And we do have to work hand in hand on many, many occasions. And so I think it's going to be good that we're that close to each other. And
the reason that I was asking, you see this conversation about the elimination of FEMA at the federal level. And before people freak out, that doesn't mean the money is going away. It's more the bureaucracy of FEMA that they're talking about going away. So working hand in hand with them and seeing the way that MEMA operates, can we handle that as a state if the funds are still there to operate without federal assistance, as long as there's financial federal assistance?
Absolutely. In fact, I think we can handle it better. In the sense that we know our state, we know our communities better. And just like in Louisiana, they're going to know it better. And we really don't know a lot about California. And when you have that centralized government for the United States, which I don't ever think it was truly intended to be this way, with FEMA operating out of D.C. and then trying to control so much of what's happening in the states, they just don't have the knowledge base of what we're dealing with in our communities and where we see our threats. And so I think MEMA and MAG do a great job, and then they also do a great job trying to coordinate with our local emergency management officials that each county has and operates. And so they're more in tune with it than obviously FEMA would be, and therefore I think they'll do a better job, at least in the immediate response. And trying to coordinate and make sure that we get assets there to help people when there is a tornado or a hurricane or a major event like that requires coordination and assistance. We can do it. And look, Mississippi's had the unfortunate benefit, I guess you could say, of 20 years of experience with dealing with things like Hurricane Katrina, and it really sets the stage for those that start thinking ahead, like what can we do to be prepared. And so MEMA does a great job of that. And with the money that comes from FEMA and the support federally, financially, I think that needs to remain obviously an important component of these recovery efforts. And as long as that's still there, MEMA can do a great job overseeing it. And I guess you still have to have the alliance with surrounding states, regional cooperation that has been such a big part of those recovery efforts when they are needed. Absolutely. We're always on the phone with the public safety officials and emergency management officials in neighboring states, trying to coordinate efforts as best we can during these types of events as they come at us. We've got more coming up with Public Safety Commissioner Sean Tindell. He's got a lot on his plate. What is the focus? What's at the top of the list right now at DPS? We'll talk about that when we come back with you. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. More coming up. Stay tuned.
Want to know what's happening in Mississippi politics?
Yes.
You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Bad boys, what you gonna do when Sugar John don't come for you?
Sean Tindell, Commissioner The Department of Public Safety here in the state of Mississippi is my guest. This is Mornings with Richard Cross. Thanks for being with us. Quickly, attention parents. The next ACT test date is fast approaching, but there is still time to help your child maximize score results with Jumpstart Test Prep. Points gained on the ACT can save tens of thousands of dollars in college tuition. The Jumpstart Review is on demand online to meet your schedule of videos, subject area workbooks, instantly scored assessments, and practices that deliver complete content review with all the tips and strategies your child needs to work faster and better on test day. Order today at jumpstarttestprep.com and give your child the Jumpstart advantage. Commissioner Tindell, don't you wish you were preparing to take the ACT one more time?
Ooh, no, I got a 17-year-old, and I've seen that book that he's trying to study to do better, and no. Those days are over.
I would need a refresher course on a lot before we went down that road. One of the conversations that I feel like has been ongoing for 10 years, 15 years, maybe longer than that is Trooper School. When's the next one? How many have you got in there? Where are you in terms of your Highway Patrol Trooper census? Do you have enough guys on the road? All of the things that go along with that. So talk to us a little bit about the Highway Patrol as it exists right now on the highways in Mississippi.
Well, the Highway Patrol, we stand right at about 500 state troopers, which has been fairly consistent number since I've been here. We had a number of classes after Katrina, and then starting around 2007 to about 2018, I think we had one trooper school. So, those numbers dwindled down pretty significantly, and we do have folks that are retiring, that came in, prior to 2007 there. So, as we're doing, our plan has been to have a trooper school every year. And so under Governor Reeves' administration, it's been the first time since the 90s that we've had a trooper school every year of a governor's administration, and our goal is to continue that. We have graduated anywhere from 30 to 45, 48 cadets out of each one of those classes. And so we've got another one going on right now. There's 39 cadets currently in it. They're set to graduate in May. We've also been getting about 30 troopers that retire every year. Okay. So we'll have a net gain hopefully this year of about 10 additional troopers. And if we do that over the course of the next few years, I'm confident that we'll be closer to that 600 state trooper mark that I feel like is important and what we need out on our roadways. And recently I was over in Starkville at our substation there, and I was looking on our CAD system, and we had 3 troopers covering, I think, 8 counties. That's just not enough. And so we're trying to increase those numbers so that we can provide a better presence and more folks out on those shifts to make sure that folks traveling our highways and interstates are safe. And I know when I was coming up just the other day, I probably passed more troopers on Highway 49 than I've ever passed. So, again, much like Capitol Police, we're trying to...
Were you going the speed limit?
Oh, of course, always do. Refocus those efforts to... making sure that there's a visible presence of troopers out on our highways and interstates to try to deter speed. And all kidding aside, one of the things that we've seen, particularly since COVID, is a record number of tickets being issued with folks going over 100 miles an hour. And I think a lot of it is modern vehicles. They're built tight, they're built quiet, and folks are going faster than they ever have before. I've got an old 96 Bronco that was the first car I ever bought in 1996. And
what color?
White. It's like OJ's. Okay. That's what they used to make fun of me about. I don't know why I picked white, but I did. And I've loved that truck ever since I've gotten it. But I can tell you, if you do 85 in that thing, everything is shaking and the mirror's falling off. You feel it. So these new cars are not built quite like that, and people are traveling very fast. And we talked a little bit. You brought up some legislative issues that are important to us last year, and we're working on implementing it with the Department of Education. And something that I think is very, very critical is mandatory driver's education in all our high schools, and a requirement that starting next year you will have to have taken a driver's education course in order to get your driver's license. It doesn't matter if you're 50 or 17. You're going to have proof that you've graduated from a driver's education course approved by the Department of Education in order to get a license. We are routinely number 1 or 2 in the nation in fatalities on our interstates and highways. We're routinely number 1 or 2 in the nation in teenage fatalities. Mm-hmm. We've got to get off that bottom, and we're determined to do that through public safety initiatives with the Highway Patrol and driver's education.
So, asking for a friend here, if you took driver's ed 30 years ago, does DPS have a record that I did that? Or that this hypothetical person did that?
Absolutely not. We're going to make you come in, and I'm going to put you in one of our troop substations and sit there for a few hours while we teach you how to drive again, Richard.
Okay, that's a good thing. I'm guessing I know how you're going to answer this, given what you just said about highway fatalities. But is there any appetite at all for increasing the speed limit on the interstate? And I ask that because with some of my travels, Texas, Colorado, two places that I've been recently where you've got 75 mile per hour speed limits. I think there's some places in the upper Midwest where there's not even a posted speed limit sign in some of those sparsely populated states. What goes into that decision, and is 70 the right number in Mississippi?
That came up this year, and I was asked about it a couple of times, and I told them, number one, we're a little bit different than Texas and some of those places in the upper Midwest where they are sparsely populated and they have greater distances between major cities. So while we don't have the largest population, our towns are rather close together, and people aren't. It's not quite like Texas where you have these vast areas where you go 100 miles and don't see anybody. Yeah. Number two, I think, at least from our state troopers' perspective, and I'm sure everybody's gotten a speed ticket going just a couple miles over the speed limit, but that is somewhat of a rarity, and I think generally there's a little bit of a grace in the speed limit that people are. It's not strictly enforced at 70 miles an hour, and so people typically go a little bit over that. I think if you increase that speed limit, then the urge is going to be to continue to go 10 miles over the speed limit or 5 miles over the speed limit, whatever the case may be. And that's going to make our roads deadlier. And when there's a wreck, it's going to be more likely to result in a fatality as you increase that speed. So when they look at increasing it, my question is, at what point do you want us to strictly enforce the speed limit? I mean, if you increase it to 75, do we start writing tickets at 76? And so I think that just kind of begs that question, because at some point that is the only way that we're going to be able to, again, try to get us off the bottom when it comes to fatalities on our roadways.
Is there such a thing as quotas when it comes to speeding tickets, traffic?
No, not at the Department of Public Safety. I mean, there's actually a law that bans us from requiring quotas. But I will say that part of what we have to do in evaluating employees and performance is look at how many tickets they're issuing. And like somebody told me that had been in law enforcement for years, if you don't want to be the lowest on that list, and you don't necessarily want to be the highest on that list, right? So, there's a happy medium, and, if we have a trooper that hasn't issued any tickets, there's obviously an issue. But, so we got to look at their numbers and their performance. But there is no per se quota that anybody's got to turn in at any given time.
We got a question on the text line. It says, say again, if you don't mind, the mandatory driver's ed rule, when does that go into effect?
That goes into effect in 2026, so that you'll have to have driver's education certificate from a certified instructor or through a school in order to get a driver's license. And then for our schools, it's going to be mandatory that all our public schools have a driver's education program. My kids go to Gulfport High. They do have a driver's education program now, but when my child got his permit, they did not have a driver's education program. So I think it's really important that we teach that in our schools. And I think, of all the things that we teach them to do, how to be good drivers, is right. It needs to be right up there at the top, because that's one of the things they're going to do for the rest of their life. And if you look at, in order to get your hunting license, you got to take a hunter safety course. In order to operate a vessel on our waterways, you have to take a boater safety course. And we never required that for driver's licenses. So it was certainly time to do it. And again, as we head into 2026, that will be a requirement.
We got a question earlier about window tint also. I know there's a limit on how much windows can be tinted, but the person on the text line said, I'm seeing people all the time with completely blacked out windows. Is that an issue that is concerning to you, to DPS?
It is, and it's a matter of officer safety. In my mind, more than anything else, that when an officer is approaching a car, being able to see and identify the number of occupants and who's actually in the vehicle, and if they have any weapons that are visible. So it's an issue of officer safety, and there are a lot of vehicles out there that have that without an inspection sticker program like we used to have.
Right.
It is rather difficult to enforce unless you're just stopping people for window tint violations, and sometimes that does happen. I think we need to have a serious conversation about window tints and how to enforce it if we're going to have it, and if we're going to allow people with darked out windows, then have some laws on the book that require them to lower their windows as the officers approach.
Fair enough. Thank you, as always, for your time. Enjoy the conversation and look forward to visiting with you again before too terribly much longer.
Absolutely. Look forward to being back, and stay safe, Mississippi, and we hope everybody has a great week.
Commissioner Sean Tindell, Department of Public Safety, joining us this morning on Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. We've got half an hour left with you. We are back right after this short timeout.
From the Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome to the show.
Not sure if it's an indictment on me or on the sport. I kind of have, in my mental calendar, that April 1st is opening day for the Major League Baseball season. And we got a message earlier on the C Spire text line that said, "Happy opening day." I was like, opening day for what? Turkey season's been going on for 3 weeks now, and we're off and rolling in college. I was like, oh, is he talking about Major League Baseball? And then I looked, I was like, it is opening day. And
today is opening day?
Today is okay. I
saw that text, and I
makes me feel a little better.
Yeah, I thought it was April 1 always. So.
Nope. Major League Baseball opening day, kind of, because you've already had 2 games that have been played. The Cubs and the Dodgers played in
Tokyo,
Japan, right?
Yeah, I thought it was the Tokyo series or the Japan series. Yeah,
yeah, and the Dodgers won both those games. So surprise, surprise, the Dodgers are 2-0 to start the year. Brewers at Yankees at 2:00 this afternoon. Orioles at Blue Jays. Phillies at Nationals get started at 3. Red Sox Rangers at 3. Man. Pirates and Marlins, Giants and Reds in Cincinnati. See, there was a time when the Major League Baseball season didn't begin until the Cincinnati Reds went first pitch at 1:00 on opening day. And then everybody started after them. But that tradition has gone away. Angels are at the White Sox. Guardians, Royals, Mets, Astros. Well, you want to talk about 2 teams that are disliked by a bunch of people. There you go. They'll get started in Houston. Braves out on the West Coast in beautiful, sunny San Diego. That's where they will start the season. Twins are at the Cardinals. Tigers are at Chavez Ravine to take on the Dodgers. Cubs out west to face the Diamondbacks. 9:00 first pitch tonight, Central Time. And the A's and the Mariners get started in the Pacific Northwest. So, to those who celebrate, happy opening day. To those who don't care, well, you got college baseball tonight, and you got the Sweet 16 tonight as well.
Well, there's 165 Major League games per team. So
162.
You got 162.
Come on,
yeah,
let's be accurate.
Yeah, my bad. But yeah, you'll get plenty of opportunities if you miss today. You're a Yankees man, right?
Yeah, kind of.
How are they going to be this year, you think? They getting back?
They're going to be good. They would have been better if they had not lost their ace.
Numero uno,
yeah. Press conference just a little while ago in Manassas, Virginia, suburb of Washington, D.C., with Kash Patel announcing the capture of one of the leaders of the MS-13 gang. We've heard lots and lots about Trende Aragua lately. MS-13, one's been around a long time, and bad dudes. Here's what Kash Patel had to say.
This is what happens when you let good cops be cops. And we're going to continue to let good cops be cops across this country. President Trump gave us the executive decision to go after and safeguard our communities. General Bondi is our warrior of justice leading that charge. Governor Youngkin, it's an honor to be a partner in this operation with you and U.S. Attorney Siebert. This is the mandate we have. Right now we have an American dying every 7 minutes from a drug overdose. That is a national security crisis we have not seen ever before. We have a woman or child being raped every 6.5 minutes in this country. We have a homicide twice an hour. No part of that metric is a safe and secure America. But thanks to the brave leadership of this administration and the folks that you see here, we are returning our communities to safety. As you heard, we took down this morning a top leader of MS-13.
So that was Kash Patel in a news conference in Manassas, Virginia, just a little while ago. The designation of some international gangs, South American gangs, Central American gangs, as terrorist organizations is a game changer. The classification of cartels operating in the United States as a terrorist organization is a game changer. But you can't just designate those organizations as terrorism related and then not do anything to eradicate them, not take advantage of that designation to try and rid them from the United States. And this administration is doing that. You can like or not like lots of the policies that exist under the Trump administration. Like, feel however you want to feel about tariffs. Feel however you want to feel about Donald Trump himself. But any argument against getting rid of violent gangs and drug cartels that are operating in the United States is an argument that, to me, falls on deaf ears.
Well, this isn't the first time that they've rounded him up, MS-13, and sent him packing. 1992, after the Salvadorian Civil War, rounded him up and sent him back. And they used the Mantra gang is currently active in many parts of the continent, U.S., but they were spreading and facilitating gang activity to all other areas, so that was the reason they were able to label them and get them out of here. It's not the first time. It's just, history is something we don't teach anymore, and it's too inconvenient to know the truth.
Yeah. This is a big deal, though, and good huge. To see the FBI, but not just the FBI. The FBI in conjunction with DOJ and the administration, local law enforcement, and state-level law enforcement working together to get rid of some of the violent criminals in the United States. You're never going to eradicate all of them. It's not all going to go away. But progress is a good thing, and you are seeing progress without question. You're seeing far fewer, almost to the point of a negligible number of border crossings. And, I know the money line was we didn't need a change in policy. We just needed a new president. I am aware. But regardless, you got fewer people crossing the southern border, fewer people crossing the northern border, and rounding up folks that are here illegally and who are engaging in violent crimes on a regular basis as part of their daily activities, and either putting them in jail or deporting them. And that is making the United States a safer place. An absolute sideshow happening at the national legislative level. Are you familiar with Jasmine Crockett, representative from Texas? Even if you don't like her politics, or maybe if you do like her politics, surely you agree that this was disgusting, the way she characterized the governor of the state of Texas.
Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot ass mess, honey. So yes.
That is Jasmine Crockett, who has managed to find her inner ebonics over the last few months, despite the fact that that's not at all what she sounded like just a couple of years ago. Jasmine Crockett characterizing Greg Abbott, who is confined to a wheelchair after he was partially paralyzed from a tree collapsing on him years ago, referring to him as Governor Hot Wheels. I don't care what your politics are. That's disgusting. And it's happening with her. By the way, she was speaking at a human rights campaign event.
Good language, too, very appropriate for a speaking engagement.
Yeah, she was in a committee meeting yesterday that was publicized. I don't know if this was the one where she slapped the phone out of the reporter's hand and then claimed that she was assaulted, or if it was a different one.
Well, it's just a circus with her.
And just open profanity in the middle of cabinet meetings. Or not cabinet meetings, but hearings that are happening. Elections have consequences. But if your hope is that Republicans remain in office, then I think you want Jasmine Crockett to keep talking. I think you want AOC to stay in front of a microphone.
They take away all the doubt.
I think you want Bernie Sanders to continue to trumpet the things that he trumpets. Because you remember when they were talking about the 80-20 issues? Like, regardless of political party, you've got a bunch of issues that 80% of Americans are on one side of, and then this crazy lunatic fringe 20% is on the other side. When the leaders of one party side with the 20% and they do it over and over and over and over again, you realize that the results of the presidential election did nothing to change the way Democrats are operating.
If anything, they're doubling down.
They are doubling down on a message that failed. And do you remember all the self-examination from people, pundits and otherwise, who have been in Democrat politics for a long time? Like, the Democrat Party's got to take a long, hard look in the mirror. Clearly, the message that we were going with during the campaign is not one that resonated with the American people. So what do we do about that? We've got to come up with a new message. Nope. We got to double down and put the crazies in our party in front of a microphone as often as is possible. I don't know if that's actually the strategy, but it's what appears to be the strategy. And if you're a Republican, I think you say, yes, please. May I have another? We'll wrap up Mornings with Richard Cross next.
Find out what's happening across your state. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
I try to call you, but on the midnight watch I realize why twice you ran away. Think about how many times I have fallen. Spirits are using me, larger voices calling. Whatever brought you and me cannot be forgotten. I have been around.
Thanks for spending part of your morning with us on Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Don't forget you can get this show and all of the SuperTalk Mississippi shows as a podcast, whether it's Mornings with Richard Cross, Middays with Gerard Gibbert, Good Things, Sports Talk Mississippi, plus our podcast, Thunder and Lightning, The Rebel Report with Michael Borky, The Eagle Hour, and many more, all available when you search SuperTalk wherever you listen to podcasts. Got plenty more coming your way today. Gerard will be along at 10 o'clock. Steve Azar with In a Mississippi Minute, then Rebecca Turner and guys from Sports Talk Mississippi will get you ready for basketball and baseball this weekend, coming up a little bit later today. You can always join the conversation on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. Bo in Indianola says, despicable to hear that elected official making jokes about a man in a wheelchair. Never heard of her until now. That kind of talk makes me sick. My goodness, at least pretend like you have morals. Tim and McGee can't believe she would make a joke of someone in a wheelchair. That table is round, and she could be in a chair one day. Another message says, let Crockett keep on. Crockett's comments are disgusting, just like Trump's endless insults and offensive nicknames that he regularly throws out. I'm not 100% sure that I would put Pocahontas and Governor Hot Wheels in the same category. One of them is kind of a spoof on something that she claimed about herself. Now, I'm sure it's offensive to some. Maybe it's offensive to many that Donald Trump calls Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas.
It's not inaccurate, though, right? I mean, she is 100,000th% Indian, or Native American, I should say.
Don't think that's quite the same as openly taking shot at the sitting governor of the state, which you represent, by calling him government Hot Wheels when he is confined to a wheelchair. I don't think that's quite the same. Maybe I'm off base on that. Somebody says, how about when he made fun of a reporter with a disability by curling his hand and mimicking him? Okay, if the President of the United States did that, that's out of line. I don't remember that specifically, but okay. And then there was yesterday in the Oval Office when he referenced a reporter wearing a mask. Yes, you're wearing a mask. I didn't know anybody did that anymore. Does it make you feel more safe? Good, okay, good. Thought that was kind of a lighthearted moment there, but yeah, I mean, look, I don't love the decorum a lot of the time of the President of the United States, Donald Trump. I don't. I wish he sometimes comported himself differently than he does. But when I balance that against the alternative, I live with it. But that's the thing, right? I mean, generally speaking, you don't like everything about a politician. And it's okay to not support everything that comes out of a politician that you generally agree with's mouth. Like, you can be a Trump supporter and not like some of the things that Trump does. You don't have to be 100% in lockstep every time. And to me, that's some of where, like, we have a blindness that exists politically. Like, if you or we or anyone is pro-Trump, that doesn't mean that Trump is infallible. It doesn't mean that he's right 100% of the time. You can have a very reasonable disagreement with Donald Trump on tariffs and the effect that they're having on workers and the U.S. economy, and yet still say, yes, I voted for Trump and I would vote for him again. Because I believe in the safety of the United States. I believe in shutting down the borders. I believe in more conservative policies. Like, it's okay to disagree. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. But yes, a general increase in decorum from all of our elected officials, I think that would be a welcome thing for most Americans. Thanks for being with us on this Thursday morning. I'll be back with you on Monday. Lance will be sitting in the big chair as he always does, making sure that everything goes smoothly. My friend, it's been a good week. Look forward to being back with you on Monday. That's you, Lance, my friend.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had my volume down. Have a great weekend. I was like, man, why didn't he hear me? Yeah, but hey, have a great weekend. Be safe and have some fun.
You as well. A lot of stuff going on in the next few days. We'll make sure that you've got all of that when we return on Monday morning. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Have a spectacular Thursday.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.